Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are right now. Thank you for tuning in to the Conversations with Dr. Don show. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon area in the USA. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about what we've decided to talk about tonight. So tonight we'll talk mostly about the ascendancy of American fascism. The ascendancy of American fascism. And my guests this evening are Lone Vet Joe Walsh, good to see ya, and Roberto Lovato, Mr. Windpipes.
Windpines.
Windpines, yeah, thank you. These two fellas have been on this show a number of times through the years because they're just so full of stuff that's important and significant. They're progressives and radicals, and I could say more about you, but I'll save that for later on. Let you say it, okay? So I'm feeling a little nervous, a little more nervous than usual because the time has changed. You know, the time changes, and then I get kind of goofy when the time changes and the sun goes up and acts goofy like that. So, well, and how are you feeling?
I feel also older. I'm going to be 77 in May. So that's pretty old for our family. 75 was the cutoff in our family. So I was kind of excited when I passed 75.
Yes, of course.
But I'm trying to slow down, but it's not working. Every time I try to slow down, something happens, like Trump.
Don't swear on my show.
I mean, how do you slow down as a breathing human being when the President of the United States lies every day and is a hypocrite every day and hates women every day and screws anybody that challenges him every day?
Watch your language. How are you feeling, Roberto?
Well, I mean, considering what the situation we're living in and stuff, I mean, we're being politically, it's become a reality show, and the truth has become lies, and the lies have become the truth. And that was a quote from Malcolm X. He once said that. But we've reached that point where this, you know, we're living in a theater of the absurd. I can remember in my youth saying, like in the 1970s and that time, that politicians were actually human beings and could communicate with each other and make decisions that were for the benefit of the people.
There were some at that time?
Yes. Yes, there were. I mean, there were Republicans that had some humanity and could talk with Democrats and come out with some solutions.
I'm sure the viewers don't remember that because they're old fellas, you know.
Yeah, I'm 72 now, so. Yeah. But, I mean, the fact that the EPA came out of Richard Nixon and he signed the legislation, so it was a different time, and I don't know what has happened during those years from then until now. There's been a total disruption of any humanity, any concern for the community, concern for decent things like the arts, you know, money for music and those creative things in our public systems has been taken away. It's being slowly divided. I feel like we need to have a resurgence of civic understanding.
Are you mad, sad, glad? What kind of feeling is associated with what you're saying?
Well, I'm, you know, usually upset.
Sure.
But I have this characteristic of having optimism somewhere. floating around, so it's something to grab for. I mean, I have friends like you, and so going down the proper road takes you to a place where you meet up with the same community, same kind of people. So that's a positive.
What you're saying sounds a little like the title of the show, The Ascendancy of American Fascism. Is what's going on now in the world indicating the world is turning more fascistic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think, for example, here, we're now in a place where the government is the corporations. And when you get that situation, the economy determines the politics. So we're right in the middle, and I don't think people understand really what that's about, and how coercive the corporations have become, and the politicians that just get sucked in along with them. There's also the hate mongering against people of other colors, other religions, and other, ethnic communities. What I'm afraid now is they're going to get a populist right-wing takeover of Europe.
Is it happening already?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And it's on the surge.
Now, as you talk about this stuff, hopefully we're going to find some glimmer of light somewhere where there's some hope, and hope springs eternal, I know, but I think I heard a little clue from you, or maybe from you, that maybe there is some reason that I'm still fighting and resisting what's going on.
Well, there are good things that are happening. I don't know if I'm going to let... well, I'll start it off, and then I think Joe can take over. We had in the last election in Portland a coalition put together by the people for Joanne Hardesty.
Joanne Hardesty, yeah.
And so they knocked face-to-face on 18,000 doors, talked to 18,000 homes, which is the work of people like back in the 60s organized to talk people to people and stuff. And well, she got elected, and she won by a majority of 60% to 40.
Elected to what?
To the Portland City Commission.
Yes, I want to hear that.
And she was the first African-American woman to be elected in the history of the Portland City Commission.
Oh, they're still turning over in their... Never mind.
Well, I was talking about that earlier. But now we also have 3 women up there and two men. So the women have, in one instance, in the Joint Terrorism Task Force decision, they decided that Portland no longer needed to be in the Joint Terrorism Task Force because we were never receiving the proper information on what the 2 officers involved, working for the Portland Police and working for the Joint Terrorism Task Force. They were never getting the city commissioners the proper information about what they were doing. And that was promised when they went last into it. So
we're going to be talking about that as we get into the main part of the show. But right now, let's take the first third of an hour or so and talk about who you are a little more. And don't look at me in that tone of voice.
Well, I'm a grandfather.
Uh-huh.
And a father, obviously. I've been an activist since 1971.
That's a while, huh?
I spent a lot of time being a union organizer and official. But I also have fought against injustice all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that was taught to me by my father and my mother. So when I was in the Navy, and I spent 9 years in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote a letter to the Chief of Naval Operations and said to him, this Vietnam War is not a good idea. We ought to get out. After it was delivered, I lost all my security clearances, and I was transferred to Hawaii. So the Navy has no sense of humor. So I've been an activist ever since then. I got out of the Navy with an honorable discharge. I had 9 years in. I thought I would make the Navy my career. But the Vietnam War made it impossible. In '68, we had the assassinations. We had the Vietnam War going. We had a terrible fear that we were going into civil war. That the protesters coming out of the universities and the military, we had huge numbers going to Canada out of the military because they didn't want anything to do with this. So that was the beginning of my activism.
So it sounds like your activism started sometime when you were in the womb or shortly thereafter. Where were you born, Joe?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York,
Uh-huh.
in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And it was, I said this to you before, it was a magical place, Bedford-Stuyvesant in New York, in the 40s and 50s. It was just magical. We had so many children on every neighborhood. If you got into a fight with somebody, you could always find a new friend. It was, we had Italians, and we had Chinese, and we had Irish, and we had English, and we had German. We had all these cultures were mixed, and we were forced to learn them.
You're losing your thing in your nose.
That's not good.
No.
So it was magical.
Now you got it again. Yeah.
And I think I learned a lot growing up in that neighborhood. And I also learned equality. You know, it was so simple for me. You know, in my head, I often wondered, as human beings, why were we so cruel to each other? You know, I grew up with that, asking that question, why do we do that? You know, why do we see somebody that's missing a leg and we make fun of them? Why do we do that? What is it about us that creates that? Are we defective? Or is it that we are afraid?
I'm having a hard time appreciating that dialect. You're Irish, I think, and
It's Brooklynese.
Brooklyn.
I left Brooklyn about 40 years ago, but us Brooklynese people will not give up the accent. There's something deep-rooted in us that keeps it.
Is that something that came from the Irish heritage?
I think it's Irish and Brooklynese and New York. And most people that meet me for the first time recognize the accent as New York.
Yeah, of course.
They pick it up right away.
Do you have a religious preference nowadays?
Oh, nowadays?
Yes.
No.
Did you ever have one?
Yes, I studied to be a priest.
Oh my God.
I was
Pardon me.
a Catholic and taught by Franciscan brothers.
I
was
was
very religious.
I was an altar boy for years and
So was
years.
I. So was I.
In
We did all
Dominic- Yeah. And you
But
have.
I'm mad at God right now.
Yeah.
I'm angry with him. Or,
Are you an atheist, or agnostic, or what are you?
no, I'm just someone who is really angry. Whatever God that we believe in, that they allow us to do what we do to each other.
That's hard to appreciate.
Yeah, I'm just, when I die, just like that, I'm going to know every question I ever had about living, about life, about why things happen. Because you either go to black or you go and stand before somebody or some spirit and answer for the questions, and that's what we teach here on earth. So it's going to be either or. And it's going to be really fun and interesting.
Do you have a wife?
Yes.
Kids?
Yes. I'm grandfather, and we have kids living, one daughter living here in Portland. And she has 2 children. So we have 2 grandchildren.
And your political persuasion? Are you a Trump supporter?
I'm not a Democrat.
You're next, Roberto. I'm going to get you next.
I'm not a Democrat.
Well, why not? Why not be a Democrat?
Because they're cowards. Look what Pelosi said today. She's taking impeachment off the table again. She did that with Nixon. Now Nixon invaded a sovereign country, murdered 1 million people on a lie about the weapons of mass destruction. On a lie. Wouldn't impeach him. Now, if you can't get impeached for that, what do you have to do to get impeached? Trump hasn't done it yet because she took it off the table again today.
This Pelosi
Joe.
said this?
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Bush, George Bush,
Did I say Nixon?
Yeah.
George Bush.
Nixon.
Thank you. I almost missed that.
Okay, she would not impeach George Bush, and Blumenauer would not even use the word.
Who's Blumenauer?
He is a congressman in the 3rd District here in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, remember we go worldwide, you know, on this show.
Yes, it's in Oregon. He is a cocktail liberal.
And what's that?
A cocktail liberal is somebody that goes to parties and they pat themselves on the back and they tell you how wonderful they are. That's a cocktail liberal. Doesn't mean they don't do good things. They do. They do a lot of good things.
Is Joe a cocktail?
But they will tell you all the time how wonderful they are.
Is Roberto a cocktail liberal?
No, he's an activist.
An activist? What kind of an activist are you, Roberto?
What kind?
Yeah. A right wing, a left wing? Or what?
Oh, no. I'm for humane policies and living with the earth properly.
We don't have humane policies now as a nation.
We have very little humane policy as a nation.
Are we getting worse?
By the day. I think my real thought for what's happening is that I believe that we have some incredibly horrible politicians who want to take away benefits that they call entitlements that people have earned and worked for, and take that money and give it to their friends, the already rich.
You know, I got to announce to the viewers that this is like a kumbaya situation where the three of us, very progressive lefties from way back. So you have a funny look about your face and your complexion and your goofy looking beard, pardon me, your nice looking beard. And I'm wondering what your heritage is.
Well, interesting. I've been looking at my DNA and stuff. So I'm like 30% somewhere about from the Iberian Peninsula, which means I'm either Spanish, Portuguese, but all in that, you know, a little French, a little Italian, a little bit of North Africa because of the Moorish influence. But then the other part of me is mostly indigenous from Mexico. So I'm like thinking, boy, this is a self-conflict because one part of me is fighting the other, which is very strange, you know. But I've learned a lot.
Through your DNA analysis.
Yeah, learned a lot about the cultures and the situations that have been happening. So it's been a good learning experience. And, you know, I grew up poor in Southern California. So I had a one-parent family. It wasn't easy. But with the help of counselors and people who cared and some government assistance, it was able to make it through City College, the University of California at Santa Barbara, and the University of Colorado at Boulder.
You had degrees in one of those places?
Yeah, I have fine arts degrees because that was my influence. I mean, I'm a sort of an artist, you know, but that was, you know, an instance where that libertarian saying that they promote now and say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, Well, it's very hard to do when the majority of the society is putting you down.
Yeah.
And it's some of those, I guess, politics of the past in the 70s, 60s and 70s that said, well, Lyndon Johnson and Kennedy, I guess, saying, let's give these people a hand up so that we can help them move up, get educated and stuff like that.
Yeah, they
But
did.
and that's how it happened to me. So now my brain has been activated because I have knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the corruption, injustice, and how people have been treated.
And is that why you're an activist today?
Yes, that's what I was. That's why the absurdity of having a Vietnam War when our person who lives in the White House is in Vietnam, talking to those people so they can get their people to be our slaves.
Why don't you
very
say his
strange.
name? Aren't you
I can't.
embarrassed at not saying his name?
That person, that thing, is a total cosmic joke. Because you can't not listen to lies as a truth, and it's a continuous machinery. So that's how this person operates.
Well, look at the leaders and the people in his cabinet that he's chosen. Those are all smart people, aren't they? And aren't they independent thinkers? And
There.
what are you shaking your head for, Joe?
This is the worst group of cabinet members since Grant. Go all the way back to Grant. President Grant.
So, are you prepared to talk about tonight what we're going to do about them?
48% of the American people think Trump is doing a good job. 48%. If we had Mussolini and Hitler, we might break 50. I don't know what's the matter. We need to talk about what's the matter with the American people.
Okay.
They put him in office, even though the Russians helped a lot. But he went into office with millions and millions of votes because people thought that he was going to change everything. And he was going to rattle everybody's chain. And he was going to turn everything upside down. Well, they were right. He turned up everything upside down.
Why is he turning everything upside down, this man, this Trump?
Because
Why is
he's
he doing
crazy.
crazy?
He is a lunatic. He is delusional. He thinks that he is doing a good job. And a lot of people think he's right.
Why is it so many people think he's right?
I don't know. That's what we should talk about. We should talk about the American psychic that causes us to elect this guy.
Because they're educated with this kind of information, and it's persuading them to vote against their best
Is it the
interests.
media?
Is it? What?
Is it the media that created this monster?
Maybe you should ask that question again and have the viewers consider if it's the media has that much responsibility to condition people, to brainwash them to vote against their own personal best interest.
Is it the guy that his warehouse was going to be shut down during the Obama administration? And Trump came along and said, I'll bring the jobs back, even though he lied.
Mm-hmm.
And the jobs are going. They're all going. He lied. And everybody knows it. The statistics are the majority of people in the United States of America think this guy is a liar.
Does he have
And 48% of them say he's doing a good job. How do we do that? How do we put that in our skulls? Doesn't fit in with my skull.
Because some people do not have other information to counter that kind of goofiness.
That's why we're here.
The media has a huge responsibility that they're abdicating. It's like a condition of being an American, a decent human being, and all those kinds of things that is being subverted and destroyed. Now back to you again.
I have another interesting interjection, which is
Sure.
totally is not like really connected, but it is, because when the song The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down was written.
Mm-hmm.
And this was by a group called The Band. Well, one of the discussions after they asked the interview about the song and all the whole thing, the leader, Robbie Robertson, said, well, when Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation, there's a large percentage of Americans who believe that the South shall rise again.
And are they rising again?
Yes, they are.
Maybe not geographically, but in the thinking and the behaviors?
Well, I'm sure they're doing it geographically, but it's all over the place because you could take Oregon. Well, the people who came to Oregon, they were okay with having slaves, but they didn't want black people here. So it's an ironic twist. And they came west for their freedom, so they could establish a non-black state.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but we were moving in a different direction, and now we're going back the other way. And you planted that song in my mind. The night they drove old Dixie down. Yeah, never mind.
yeah, but it's never died. It's moved and shifted, so it's always been in the background. But it hasn't been discussed on a national platform basis. It's just kind of lingering, and those people believe that the South is coming back, and we're looking at parts of it that is true. Police kill black people like people aren't human. I don't know what else to say. It's just so incredibly horrific.
Is your religion helping you with your opinions?
My religion is the pine trees. Actually, I'm agnostic because I don't know. And anybody who says they know has got to have loose screws, because our mind isn't capable of knowing. So, and the world, it's beyond our imagination. We have Voyager gone farthest billions of miles. It's out there, gone farther than anything the human made has ever gone.
Mm-hmm.
And people are astonished, anybody who knows it, anything. So our Earth is a tiny little sand pebble.
How many kids do you have?
I have none.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of life circumstance, and I didn't think I was capable of being responsible for children.
Does someone love you nowadays?
My wife and my 2 golden retrievers.
What's that?
I love them.
Well, we all, we're all committed. We love each other. So yeah, I mean, I'm not. I used to once think that I was alone,
Mm-hmm.
but I got over it. Then I think that comes with age, because then you see, well, I'm doing this. I'm following this path. I'm trying to follow the path of truth, and I end up in places where people are truthful, so we can communicate. So that's the path.
One more question before we go into the second half of the show.
Uh-huh.
What does doing good mean to you? Doing good. Simple as that. What is that?
That's so easy. It is. It's an easy question, Dr. Tom. If you're on a bus and somebody gets on the bus and they're short a quarter or something like that, and the bus driver is giving them a hard time, and you get up and you say to the bus driver, here, take the quarter, and you put it in and you sit down. You don't know the person. The person can't help you get a job or anything else. It's just an act, because we're all in this together. You heard the cliche. That's what it means.
What is doing?
I'll tell you another story.
Sure.
The other day, I got off the number 2 bus on Division in the city of Portland,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to take another bus. And I was on my wheelchair or scooter, electric scooter, and there was a young guy standing there. He was about 20 or 30 years old. And I looked down the hill, and there was an old guy on the ground. So I said to the young guy, what's going on with him? And he said, I don't know. So I said, well, come on with me and we'll go find out. So I went with my scooter, on my scooter, went down to this guy and realized he had lost a leg somewhere along the line. And he had that metal bar for the leg with a shoe on the end of it. And he was a vet because he was wearing a hat that said he was a vet. So I said to him, do you need some help? And he said, no. He said, I'm okay. He said, I'm almost there. He said, it's better for me to do it. Otherwise, we could fall. So I said, okay. I said, I'll just stay in case you need me. So I stayed there for a little bit. And then I went back up. And the man got up and he went on his way. I went back to the bus stop and I went ballistic with this guy. I said, how could you stand there and want somebody on the ground?
This kid.
How could you do that? That's good work. That's what it's about. It's about being aware, pay attention, and then act. And then do something that's positive, that's good.
You have an example of doing good. What doing good means to you, Roberto.
I think generally it is trying to affect some positive outcomes that help, people or whatever it is you do, the environment, animals. If you have the facility financially to support something that's doing good work, I'm really cute. I love jazz, and so now my wife and I have started a fund at Portland Jazz Festival to have kids who don't have money to go and listen to really great jazz musicians, so that maybe one will say, oh, I love that, maybe I could do that. Or creative and stuff like that, so you can build a more creative society if the children get attention
And they get to feel good and they appreciate their lives.
and then they become a person, and there's a person who can take that and spread it to other people and have a positive.
That sounds like doing good to me. That sounds like a good definition now. And we have gone so far till we're more than half into the show, and we got to leave room to talk about the city council and what's going on in Portland to indicate that we're ascending into or descending into fascism. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and talk some more about other stuff. Okay, we're back. Thanks for interrupting you. Pardon me for interrupting you. Thanks for staying tuned, you people out there. And for your viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about the ascendancy of American fascism. And we're going to talk about American fascism, fascism and ascendancy around the world, particularly in Portland and in Salem, in Washington, D.C., and in Latin America, if we get that far. But so far, we're using a lot of time, and we'll see how far we get. We could talk about city council. You guys are regulars at the city council in Portland to keep them on the straight and narrow, and it's kind of a battle going on, ongoing. and you seem to aggravate the powers that be down there until they want to lock you up, huh?
I think that's what activists do.
Yes.
My definition of an activist is someone that throws rocks, the psychological rocks, at the politicians. Right? My activists, the way I see them, do not serve on committees. They do not become insiders. They stay outside. Whether it's symbolically or it's physical, they stay outside so they're not absorbed into the system. What happens to a lot of activists, they start out really well and they go in and they get absorbed, and all of a sudden the people that they've been attacking and criticizing become very human, and they start to like them, and then they're no longer activists, they're insiders. That's just me. That's the way I see activists, advocates. There are advocates that will sit on the committees that will advocate for one issue, police accountability, sit on the independent review board, sit on those type boards.
Have there been any activists who continue to be activists as they become part of the political system?
Yes,
people
me.
like JF, like you.
Yes.
But you're not a politician.
What do you
I'm
mean?
talking about people who are in power who can do something about what's going on, and like Lyndon Johnson and
JFK,
war on poverty, JFK.
Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King,
So there were a few, right?
Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks is famous for not getting up off that seat. She was an activist. She wasn't someone that just got on a bus and just decided that she wasn't going to get up. She was an activist for years and years and years. But she never went inside. She stayed outside. So when the point came and she looked at that bus driver and said, I ain't getting up, she changed the world. I ain't getting up.
So what do you think being an activist is that's useful for us in our society? Roberto, what kind of
Well, I
activism?
think activism comes out of again justice and fair play values, humanity. So those are all parts of the things that, you know, if you have important values and you see injustice, then you've got to do something to make those things right, because the deeper we get into the negative as far as issues of justice and humanity, it's, you know, you lose your self-respect as a country, as a community. So it's important to make a positive life contribution by trying to counteract the injustice, and as I said before, but not everybody has that, you know, because
So I understand you guys are going to be talking about what's going on in our wonderful city of Portland here in the city council, because you're in there trying to get them to walk the straight and narrow and be decent citizens. What's happening in city council recently?
well, he spends more time than I do there because I live outside the city, but he's got a lot of
The biggest
information.
news that we have,
Sweeps.
I think, the biggest news in
Yeah.
the city council is the election of Joanne Hardesty.
Okay.
And here's why I say that. When I first started the battle with the city council, there were 5 white guys. Okay. We now have 2. And we have 3 women. And we have 1 woman of color. And we have another woman who is a single mom. We have another woman who is a psychiatric nurse. If they form a triumvirate, which it looks like they did on this one issue about the Joint Terrorist Task Force, they came together and they overrode the mayor. Mayor said he wanted to stay in, and they said no, but they had 3 votes, and they won. That's exciting.
Are we
They
approaching?
could do some wonderful things, the three of them, because they had the majority vote. So when stuff comes up in the city council, and we used to go and argue and ask and beg and don't do this, and they would do it anyway. That's change.
Is that because Portland is the left-leaning part of the country?
No.
Is it going
No, I
socialist
don't
or
think
what?
so. Everybody thinks Portland is a very progressive city. It's not.
Well,
We have a very, very out of control police department running this city. It's not progressive. Progressive would be if I come up to you and say, I don't like what you're doing, I don't like what you're saying, I don't like how you're spending the money, you would say to me, hey, let's sit down and talk about it.
isn't that what you're
Today,
doing? What you're saying? there?
today you get arrested. You get arrested. If I went up to the mayor in the middle of a city council meeting and said those words, I'd get arrested.
And then what would happen?
Then I go to jail. And then I'd be in jail, and then I'd get out of jail, and then they would take me in front of the Justice Department, in front of a judge, and the judge would look at it, and either he would throw it out or the district attorney would draw the charges. I have never been convicted. Maybe once. We did a protest in Smith's office when he was senator, prior to
Senator what? What's his
Merkley.
name?
Smith.
Smith. Okay.
Yeah, forget what his first name was.
Okay.
Anyway, we did demonstration there, and we took 8 hours community service for it. It's the only time I ever came close to saying I was guilty of something.
Didn't you learn your lesson?
No,
Now you talk about sweeps and rapid response. What sweeps? What do you mean by sweeps?
okay, what a sweep is you have people living on a street in tents,
Okay.
and they have no access to toilets because the business alliance won't let them use the toilets in the area, and the city will not put out porta potties. So in the middle of the night, they will go to the bathroom. Everybody gets upset. Everybody gets upset over that
In the streets.
in the street, and they get arrested. Now you have somebody that has all this stuff in the tent, okay? They go to an appointment, whether it be a medical appointment, an employment appointment, a food appointment, they get some food or something. What do they do with all that stuff? They leave it.
Yeah.
Along comes the city, and they take it all, everything.
Where do they take it?
They take it and they put it in storage, or they throw it away. Now, somebody's trash could be valuable to the person that owns it. You don't know that. You just throw it away. Oh, with towel, throw it away. They take the very essence of the survival ability of these people, and then they die on the streets. People argue with me, well, they put it in storage, Joe. They can go get it. All they have to do is identify it. How do they do that? Think about that. If you're living on a street, how do you go to the cops and say, that tent belongs to me? How do you prove that? Because that tent was just given to you by what I call the street angels, the people that give out food and stuff and try to keep people alive, and then the city comes along and steals it. Because the people can't get it, they can't prove it's theirs. If they have medications, they throw the medications away. If they have food, they throw that away.
That sounds like a horrible situation, and we're fortunate because we're not in that economic straits.
Not only that,
But what do we do to counter that, to have that situation change?
the people of Poland gave them millions of dollars. We passed bonds that says, hey, Get affordable housing. Affordable housing is a lie. It's just a lie.
It's a lie.
Affordable housing is for Roberto and me and you. What you can afford. You go into an apartment or a condo, what you can afford. If you can afford $1,500, that's affordable housing. If you can't afford it, we'll supplement it. What does that have to do with someone has nothing on the street? It doesn't correlate. It doesn't get him off the street. Other cities have done it.
So
That's getting people off the street.
They've been successful getting people off the streets?
Helsinki had 16,000 people on the street and just said, let's put them in shelters. Let's put them in housing. Let's get them off the street. Let's say we got 16,000. What Portland does is say, we got somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 on the street.
What did Helsinki do?
They put them in apartments. They get apartments.
How do they do that?
They built places for them.
So you think Portland can do
Because
that?
it's cheaper to put them in the apartments than to keep them on the street.
Do you think that Portland can do that?
Yes, they can do it. They can do it tomorrow.
Why haven't they done it?
Because of the money. It's very profitable to make money off the backs of the poor. Just think of all these places. Goodwill. You know what the CEO of Goodwill makes? A couple $100,000.
Are you a socialist?
No, I'm an angry Irishman. And I still don't understand. We started saying this. Don't understand how we treat each other. Don't do it.
Can I tie
Yes.
it into your fascism?
Of course.
There's enough money to take care of all of these people, put them in a home, in a house or apartment, give them money for food and whatever, because they're not going to be employable because the employment is being drastically cut down because of robots and technology. But you have a Congress and the thing that lives in the White House giving $1 trillion tax cut to his cronies. So that money could have instead been directed for social safety nets to help these people and would have been a far better deal. But instead, the rich get to buy bigger yachts.
Is that greed?
That's fascism and greed, yes. Because you have the politics behind it to enforce whatever policy you want and ignore the will of the people.
Why did the Finns find a way to get over what you just said so that they've taken care of their problem?
Because it's cheaper to put them in housing than keep them on the street. Think about all the emergency services. Think about arrest. When you get arrested, got the cop that's going to arrest you. You got a judge. You got an attorney that's going to represent you. It's very expensive. They figured in Salt Lake City, they figured 16,000 to put them in an apartment, give them the supporting services, 24,000 to keep them on the street. And you know what Salt Lake City said? Let's do it. Just do it. And they did it. Not
there's been
100%, and there's some criticism, but they did it. They said, how many people are on the street? And they said, well, we got 3,000. So they said, get them off the street. Not Portland. Portland says 2,000, 5,000. Let's build homes for 1,500.
What are you doing about those people who are used to having the excess money so that they can keep the existing situation going, instead of doing what they did in Salt Lake City and what they did in Helsinki? What's wrong? What's wrong with people?
The mayor
Yeah, well.
is a Republican.
Well,
But you didn't know that. He used to be a Republican. He signed on to be a Democrat. He talks like a Democrat, acts like a Republican. And Republicans don't give a damn about people on the street. Nothing. Not a dime.
well, go back not too awfully many years when the Republicans and Democrats, there was a difference. So that is ancient characterization of what's going on, what's happening now.
The budget that just came out from Trump yesterday. He submitted a budget. He is cutting every social program except $1 billion he wants to give to his daughter to run her program.
Are you going to do something about Trump in the next election, or is he going to make it through the next election?
No, well, if Trump gets reelected, I'm going to Panama.
There's the potential of rigging the situation again. So who knows what the real dynamic is, but things are happening that we don't know about. And, you know, in political circles, favors are exchanged, different, you know. The politician is a different breed. So they're willing to do things that you and I wouldn't do to get their self reelected or whatever. So it's a weird system. I mean,
there's some really strange things going on. Bernie Sanders raised $10 million like in 1 or 2 days. He announced that he was going to rerun. And he raised
At his age?
$10 million.
What's wrong with
Now
this?
I'm going to say something that may annoy you.
I hope so.
I think he's wrong. I think he ought to get out of the way. And I think all of us older people ought to get out of the way and let the young people do it. I would be so happy, Dr. Don, if a young person tapped me on the shoulder at City Council and said, Joe, go get some coffee. I got this. I keep talking about it, but nobody's ever, you know, tapped me on the shoulder. So we have dual problems going on. We have a younger generation that's coming up that's very me. You know, how does it affect me? You know, how do I look? It's scary. You know, when I was coming up, we had radicals coming up. We had radicals on television. We don't have any radicals. Well, we have a radical now. But I mean, as MSNBC or CNN, I mean, if you listen to them closely, they're really not looking for change. They're looking for the status quo. You know?
The status quo?
Yeah.
Well,
But I like MSG. There's a lot of people on there I like. How much do they talk about Israel on MSNBC? How much do they talk about it? Just talk about it.
because the powers that be that run things in this country are determined to
Look
be,
what they just did to that
to be sure
congresswoman.
that Israel is the extension of American hegemony in the Middle East.
That's right.
That Israel should be America's 51st state.
You know, when you talk about falling into fascism, here's the really scary part. Under Mussolini, fascism was all about Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when they got rid of Mussolini, the Italians, it took them a long time. I mean, Mussolini was in power a long time, but they finally got rid of him. Fascism in Italy was almost over.
Mm-hmm.
They just got rid of one guy. It was almost over. What we have in America is a special kind of fascism. We have a corporate, like Roberto said, we have a corporate fascism. You get rid of the chairman of the board, what happens? Another guy takes his place. You get rid of him, another guy takes his place. That's scary. Because you keep having these dictators coming out of corporate world, and we can't get rid of them because they have a new one just waiting in the wings. Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler, when we got rid of them, we had a shot. And we did some wonderful things after World War II.
Are we going to do that in America today?
No.
Are we going to shut down American imperialism?
I don't know. I really don't.
I have another point. When we went back, when we were talking about radicals.
We've got about a minute left.
Radicals. Well, FDR, LBJ, and Kennedy didn't do it on their own. They did it because they had to, because they were pushed by radicals to do the things they did. They wouldn't do it on their own. So You know, when you get these things, it's ultimately the people who are energized enough to push for these things. You know, you don't get anything if you don't ask, as Frederick Douglass said. So the radicals have a real place.
Yes, so you're going to keep being radical and progressive, and because if you keep going at that, eventually iron rusts, things change. That's all I can think of right now. But I agreed, I'm not sure we can do anything about that, but we need to stop now because they're going to yell at me. So I want you to look at your camera. Roberto, you first, and tell the viewers anything you want to say about what we talked about tonight or anything else about how they can become better citizens or anything else.
I hope that the people can get more interested in what is going on around them. Understand it is important that you make your decisions. Your child's health is involved. You make those decisions, not the corporations.
Lone Vets, sir.
My dream is that you who are watching this will start to think about becoming involved. You don't have to agree with me. And I have really good friends that disagree with me. You have to study. You have to look this stuff up. You have to say, where are we going? What are we doing?
About 20 seconds. All right, so I guess it's time for us to stop. And thank you guys for coming aboard. And I got a public service announcement to make so that we can, thanks for watching. And remember KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. And these two characters have worn me out. Okay, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Good night.